Hi there, still playing around with my effects pedal. I've actually incorporated a switch in there now, and I've got a couple of buttons there if you can see them through all the wires. One of the buttons I've wired to the modulation to turn it on and off, and the other button I've wired in for a different function, which is basically to add filter, an extra capacitor to the filter out of the PT2399 chip to make it sound darker. So if I strum it here, you can hear the sound. If I press the button, I've accentuated the modulation. You can adjust that, obviously. There, it's switched off. And this is to make the sound dark, the other one. Hope you can hear that. So, dark sound, bright sound. And the modulation is here. Obviously that's an accentuated modulation. Find these pots here. It's like a bird's nest here. Well, that's really accentuated. Okay, I'll adjust the speed as well. So. The problem is with these boards here, you see, these things like pots, they don't stay in there properly. You've got to keep. Anyway, let's make it dark here. Hopefully you can hear that. There's actually two LFOs here that I'm working on. I mean, the LFO's fine, and I've just done this digital switching system here. This is another LFO that I'm working on based on a hex inverter, and you can see as the square wave goes high, it turns one LED on, and the square wave goes low, it turns the other one on. At the moment, it's very messy signal. I can't really do anything with that. It's too messy, and it's got too much noise on it, and they're not really completely turning off the LEDs. I've got to try and maybe put it through another hex inverter to clean it up a bit. But the modulation here, I managed to work that out using a a Schmidt trigger and also a switch, and the switch is the 4066. So I can switch in different parts of the circuit with a button, and the Schmidt trigger acts like a latching switching system. So yeah, it's coming on really well. I changed a few of the filter capacitors to different values because I found it was a bit too dark and a bit too unusable. So what I've done is I've messed around with the values, and now they're pretty good at the moment. But I'm going to be working on this more and more. I want to try and shrink the size of it because I've got two 14-pin chips here. I've got a dual op amp, which I'm using half for the inputs and half for the actual LFO. I've got obviously the PT2399 chip. I've got on the output, I'm just using a discrete output. I'm not putting any op amp on there, I'm not boosting it or anything. And that's another thing to arrive at that without imbalance. So there's quite a lot on here, and there's quite a few pots as well. There's a level pot there, overall level pot, you can see in the center of the display. And then you've got your delay pot, your repeat rate pot. There's two pots in the LFO there. This other pot here, that's just for another LFO that I'm not using yet. I'm trying to get that LFO working because it's actually derived off this hex inverter chip, and if I can derive that off the hex inverter chip, then perhaps I can do away with the dual op amp altogether and just put a simple FET on the input. The reason why I'm mucking about with these and trying to reduce the count on here is so that I can fit it all on a small PCB and bang it into a pedal that size. If not, if I can't do that, then I'm going to have to put it into a wider pedal. But this is pretty good. It's sounding better than that one, although that's pretty good as well. But this is sounding a bit better, a bit more refined, and obviously I got the push buttons there now that I was trying to get right. So yeah, it's going pretty well. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you got some value out of this video.